Here we go. We're back. Global 3.2. It's our first religion that we're going to cover called Animism. And so here's Mike Snow's Animal. Dreaming now I'm supposed to feel it up something in your eyes I see the eyes of somebody I knew before long ago. I'm liking this song. Never really heard it much before. I'm digging it. Where's the hook? All right. So let's start with the old definition of animism. Here's probably something that we've covered before. Anytime I see an ism at the end of the word, that means it's a belief system. All right. So if a word ends with ism, that means a belief. And here I see the root word or base word of animals. And animism, quite simply, is the belief in animals. Right? And that other, like animals and other natural objects will have souls or spirits. This is the belief that animals and other natural objects, like waterfalls or maybe mountains, have spirits. Okie dokie. So I guess historically what we need to understand, right, is that this is a supernatural sort of belief system, right, that sort of gives life to our universe. That all of these natural things around us that seem like inanimate objects or that things that we can't communicate with, that they actually do have souls and spirits that we can communicate with in a supernatural way. So this gives supernatural life to the universe. And the universe that we live in is literally breathing, right? Living and breathing in a way like we humans are. And that everything around us can also sort of have these lifelike spiritual qualities like humans do. Okay? Now, let's take a look at the history. Let me switch colors maybe real quick. If we do a little red, if that shows up, why not? Let's kind of look at things from a historian point of view. Right? And a historian's really interested in timelines. And the thing with animism, it's not really organized. So it doesn't really have a start or an end. It's the world's oldest religion, but there's so many various versions of animism. It's not like one collective religion that all animists believe the same thing. It's really sort of spread far and wide. So it's not really organized at all. It is decentralized. It is not organized, and it has no real start or end. So we can't say, oh, animism started here, or animism stopped being a religion at this point. Like, no, there's no start and no end. So there are still animists today. Sometimes we even have some leftover aspects of animism in our culture. For instance, if we had a live class, I would certainly ask you, how many of you talk to your cat or dog? Right? Kids are always like, oh, yeah, I talk to my dog. Well, yeah, great. You know, your dog doesn't understand you, right? I hate to be controversial here, but your dog has no idea what you're saying. Oh, yes, they do. No, they don't. The ability to talk to your animals is kind of a leftover remnants of all of these, myriad animist religions over the last, literally 70,000 years. If we had to build a timeline, right, we're going back to like the early signs of animism probably start to pop up somewhere around 70,000 BC. Right? This would be like the early signs of animism. And animism stretches, like I just implied, some animist beliefs still stretch all the way to the present, right? To modern day, where we still talk to our animals. So this is the world's oldest religion, but it's not just one religion, right? It's not just one centralized, if you're an animist, this is what all animists believed. It was really, really spread out. And geographically, which we'll move to next, geographically, this really widespread religion probably had its earliest roots in places like Africa or Northern Europe. So thinking like a geographer, I should probably put that in red. Oh, let's make it match, guys. Why not? All right, so if we're going to think like a geographer is going to find that this is a really widespread. Right, across time and across location. So maybe the early animists probably popped up with like early humans in Africa. We already talked about the sort of out of Africa theory, and that early upright walking hominids probably developed in Africa. And Africa seems to be an area where animism probably first got its foothold. We can see some remnants if I just shift over here to the old interweb. Oh, come on now. Why don't you cooperate with me? If I shift over here to the Google search engine, I think I have like, this these sort of African tribal masks that are part animal, part human, or animals with human-like qualities, right? These are the masks of animists. And we're also going to find, when I go back to the board in a minute, we're going to add like Northern Europe, even like places like Scotland or Ireland had early pagans, which were also animists. In fact, a pagan, that's probably a term we're going to talk about in a second. If you're a pagan, that just means you're like a non-Christian animist from the days before Christianity in Europe. And here's this horned, sort of like masked person wearing like the mask of, what would that even be? I don't know. It looks like some sort of a goat type feature with horns. And there's all sorts of like horned spirits in the pagan religions. Of course, that's what these people worshipped, and they really centered their belief system around the animals and the food that the nature provided them. We talked about the importance of food last unit, and we see it stretches into this unit also with early religion. So let's come back to the board. Not only is Africa a location of great importance with early animists, but also Northern Europe and in Ireland. /Ireland. You start to see animists also. And I'm just going to throw that other term out there at you, right? This term of being a pagan, which we'll hear often, right? Again, paganism, much like animism, is not really a centralized religion. Paganists were simply animists, pre-Christian animists, right? So they were non-Christian animists. And of course, the Catholic Church, when we eventually get to Christianity, we'll see that the Catholic Church really thrived on expanding and spreading its religion into these pagan areas. And pagan was the term that the Christian Church used to refer to these animists in places like Northern Europe and Ireland as it tried to convert them into Christianity. All right, so that's the historical background of animism and the geographic background of animism. We'll pick up next class and take a look at maybe the anthropology and sociology of animism. But that's it for today. Thanks for joining. We kept it short and sweet. Adios.